Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. In today's episode, we're going to talk to you about 5 steps that you can take to keep your Mercury 4-stroke running like a top, the same way it did the very first day you hit that key and heard that Merc roar, which I always talk about. I love the Merc roar when it starts. But guys, today we're going to talk about 5 tips that you can use to make sure that you keep that Merc humming just like it did on the first day and keep it in tip-top shape. And I'm going to tell you this right now. The 5th tip, the final one that we have, is the one that you're going to love the most out of all 5 of these. Stick around, guys. We're going to be back in just a minute. Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher. We're going to give you 5 tips today to keep your Mercury 4-stroke running in tip-top shape. And these are pretty standard notions, but some things that you need to be aware of. And guys, if you like this type of content, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We are nearing 5,000 subscribers. We'd love to get there, and we need your help to do that. My sincere thanks to all of you who have already subscribed to the channel. I'd encourage you to be part of that group, part of the Mark Fisher Outdoors community, and jump in and hit that subscribe button. All right, here's the first one. The first one is, after you get done and you're wiping it down, you're cleaning it, go ahead and do a visual inspection. And what you're doing is you're inspecting 2 things for sure. You're inspecting the prop, make sure there's no dings or any place that you may have bent the prop, because if you do any damage to that prop and don't pay attention to that and don't repair that, what you're doing the next time you go out is your prop is now unbalanced, and that is putting wear on your prop shaft and the other internal components of your motor. Believe it or not, running a prop that's dinged and damaged is the quickest way you can do internal damage to your motor. So visually inspect that prop and make sure that it's in good shape. This is another reason why, guys, that I carry a spare. It's one thing if you ding a prop in the middle of the day and you get back, to the weigh-in or whatever after the day, but then change that prop out and put that new prop on. Get that dinged up prop taken care of so that it's back to being balanced. The other part of your visual inspection is you're just checking the intakes, making sure you don't have clogs and things like that, as you're going to see in one of these other steps, that keeping the proper coolant is very important, and so you don't want any debris clogging up the intakes to let the water in to cool the engine. So visually inspect your motor after every time that you go out. And it doesn't take a lot. We're all back here hooking up straps and raising the tilt and doing all those kinds of things. So just make sure that you're visually inspecting your motor, after each use. The second tip is about oil. And this is one of those things that's kind of interested me as I was doing the research in it. With these new Merc 4-strokes, you need to make sure that you've got the proper amount of oil. And yes, every once in a while you need to do an oil change to keep everything, because the newer the oil, the better it lubricates, the better it works. But to be honest, with these new 4-strokes, you don't need to do a ton of oil changes. Check your owner's manual, make sure you stay within the specs of when to do an oil change. But the reality is you're not doing oil changes every 3 months like you would think you were doing, or like you used to do with those old motors. So it's really a benefit to having one of the 4-strokes that Merc makes, but you do want to make sure that you don't fall behind in that, and that you want to have good, clean, fresh oil, new oil filter, and that you're making sure that oil is to the right level. The third tip is actually going back to that coolant. Obviously, we all know that our engines are water cooled, and they're taking the water from the lake. That's why I pointed out in the first tip, you want to make sure that those intakes are clear. But what you don't want to do is ever dry start your motor. Starting the motor outside of the water where there is no coolant, you don't have to let that motor run very long before the heat of that motor without any water to cool it is going to burn up an impeller and you're going to have damage. So guys, make sure that you do not dry start your motor even for the smallest amount of time. I mean, it can happen very, very quickly. If you need to do work or you're checking something, put a boot on it, get that water intake with your garden hose, and make sure that that water is flowing through your motor. Now, the fourth tip has to do with when you're storing it over the winter. And we've done several videos about this, but make sure your tank is full. Make sure you put a fuel treatment in here. This doesn't really have, this has more to do with the type of fuel that we use as opposed to the motor. The fuels that we use, that ethanol type of fuel, those fuels have a tendency to break down, especially over long periods of time. So, I mean, the worst case scenario is you've got your boat, you put it in for the winter and it's got a half a tank in it and that ethanol starts to break down. And on top of that, because it's only got a half a tank and the climate changes, goes from very cold to warm and things like that, you get condensation. And what you're doing is you're putting in components into your engine that are going to increase the likelihood of rusting and things like that. So the best thing you can do is, prior to storing your boat, put some fuel treatment in it. I've said this before in other episodes. Put that fuel treatment in on your last outing where you're running that fuel treatment through your motor. Make sure that your gas tank is topped off, and then go ahead and store your boat for the winter. Those are things that are very important when it comes to storing your boat. And now here's the fifth tip. And this one is the one that we're all gonna like the most. The reality is that to keep your motor running in tip-top performance, get out and use it. Because the more these babies are used, the better they're lubricated, the more that oil doesn't have a chance to sit, those parts become exposed and things like that. The more you use your boat, the more you use your four-stroke, the better it's gonna perform. So the next time you're not doing anything and you're going, man, I need an excuse to go out fishing, you just tell the wife, hey, I gotta do this because Mark told me that this is the way to keep my motor in tip-top shape. And that's absolutely the truth. Get out and use your four-stroke. Make sure that it's well lubricated. Use it often. Don't let it go extended periods of time without being used. Guys, we hope you like this information. We hope you found it useful. And we will see you again tomorrow on another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody.